Hello, everybody. This week on the ColbyCast, we are re-releasing episode 91, which is called Passing Time with Papa. It's Caleb, Luke, and my conversation with my dad, and was originally released in March of 2023. When doing a podcast with your sons, it's hard to say any specific episode is your favorite, but this is pretty high on all of our lists. The reason that I'm re-releasing it now is that unfortunately my dad, affectionately known as Papa, passed away on February 5th of 2025. For those of you who have heard this episode, you already know what a wonderful person he was. For those who may be listening for the first time, it's an absolute privilege to share him with you. We hope you enjoy this episode and that our talk brings a smile to your day. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the ColbyCast, your place for community and conversation about pop culture and storytelling. On this episode, we're going to go hard on the community and storytelling aspect of things because we have a very special episode planned for everybody with a very special guest. Before we get to the man of the hour, though, who's already embarrassed, let's say hello to Caleb and Luke. Hello, Caleb.
Hello.
Hello, Luke.
Hi.
So here we go. This is the next person, the next voice you hear is the voice of a man with many names. His name is Roger. His name is Papa. His name is Dad. I'm sure his name is a whole lot of other things that I'm not going to repeat on a family-friendly podcast. So, without further ado, welcome to the ColbyCast, Dad.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
No, and you're not a good liar either.
No, I'm not.
Well, Papa. So you're going to be called Dad and Papa and whatever else. So if you're listening, just try to keep up because the names are going to fly.
Well, you can call me anything you want. Just don't call me late for dinner. And you've already earned your money. I will Venmo you your I can leave now.
The 6 figures you've demanded are going to be on their way as soon as Luke teaches me how to use Venmo. So
The only thing is they're not actual money. The action figures are what
Right.
you're getting paid today.
That's right.
yeah, no, I'm not giving him any of my action figures. Are you crazy? He doesn't like Star Wars anyway. We were talking about this, and he goes, "I'll come on the podcast as long as we're not talking about Star Wars."
Because I don't know anything. I can't even spell Star Wars.
Well, we are thrilled that you're here. You are the grandfather of these two youngins that join me on this all the time. You're my dad, and you're the reason we're all here, and a reason that we're talking about all the fun stuff that we're going to talk about. But before we get into the pop culture and storytelling aspect of things, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What'd you do as a kid? Tell us a little bit about Grammy, how she popped you in the lip one time because you're mouthing off.
Well, I was born in beautiful downtown Burbank, California, October 2nd, 1945. So
What's the social security number and bank account?
For those of you that can't add real quick, that makes me 77 years old.
And that makes your social security number 2.
Actually, number 3.
Oh, man.
Because my sister's older than I am.
Okay.
Excuse me. Moved to Pacoima when I was 6 months old, although I don't remember that.
I was going to say, that's pretty talented.
Yeah, my mom told me that many, many times. I went to Pacoima Junior High School. I survived and graduated San Fernando High School. Spent a couple of years in the Navy, and then spent the rest of my career working for the phone company.
Yes.
For net credited 32 years of service, which I don't know really how I survived that many years, but it was a good place to work because it provided us with very good vacations. We were never hurting for food or anything, so it was a good career.
Well, and another thing that it did was first, before I go on to what I'm going to say, thank you for your service in the Navy.
You're welcome.
Your country and the people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. So I think that might come up down the road here in this conversation again, because we're going to get into some of the things that you like.
And I think the Navy might have a thing or two to do with some of the things that may come up. So I'm looking forward to hearing that. But you mentioned your years in with the telephone company, and it was a huge blessing for our family because we never were looking for our next meal. We always had a roof overhead. We lived a comfortable, fun life, and it allowed us to go to the movies a lot, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
I can't even imagine how much time has been spent in a movie theater in my childhood, and then you guys continued the tradition, taking Caleb and Luke to the movies when you guys would go hang out with them for a day.
Yep.
And then even after the fact, you guys go into the movies practically every Friday night with your movie group. You've
That's
seen
right.
a lot of movies in your life, Papa.
And 90% of them I can't remember.
Neither can I. Don't worry.
So,
Well, the ones that you can remember are the ones that you liked the most, I'm sure, or the ones you liked the least. So I would love to know, all of us would love to know, what are some of your favorite movies, whether they're from your childhood, from your midhood, or from your recent hood. What are some of your favorite movies? And tell us a little bit about them.
first and favorite of all time, it's Navy related.
Just surprise, surprise.
It's The Hunt for Red October.
Nice.
It's about a Russian submarine captain that wants to defect to the United States because they have developed a submarine that is the best of all time. And he does not think that Russia should have it all by themselves. So he wants to share it with the United States. A very, very good movie, which reminds me of a saying that I saw the other day when I was at the VA. Said the best Marine is a submarine.
Yep.
So
I have a question for you guys, Caleb and Luke. Have you guys ever seen The Hunt for Red October?
I haven't. I feel like I mention this all the time, but I haven't seen a lot of like the classics or the very, very popular movies. I very recently watched like The Godfather. My favorite movie of all time is Shawshank Redemption, so that is considered like one of the classics, right?
Absolutely.
But anytime I talk to Brittany or Mark, they're like, "Have you seen this?" It's like, nope. So that's high on my list of what ones I want to watch.
But you're closing the gap really well because you have that list and you're knocking them out at a pretty good pace. Luke, have you seen Hunt for Red October?
I have not seen it, no.
I'll sell you on it in what I think is three names, not even 3 words. But it's Sean Connery, Gene Hackman, and Denzel Washington. Those are the 3 main stars of the movie. And I mean, those are 3 people that I could sit there and read the phone book.
Yeah.
Much less have a magnificent movie and a great story. And they're all in peak form, right, Papa? Those guys, it's such gripping.
I might have to correct you because it's not Denzel Washington. Although I can't remember, it's one of the Baldwin brothers.
Oh, which is the one that Denzel's in with Gene Hackman?
Crimson Tide.
I messed it up.
Crimson
You're
Tide.
right. See, thank you very
Look at
much.
that.
That's
And
what
you
I-
say you don't remember. Look at you. You're the
I
encyclopedia.
have flashes of semi-brilliance.
Crimson Tide, which I'm
Tide.
assuming is on your list too. So who is in Hunt for Red October then? It is Sean Connery, right?
Sean Connery and
Alec Baldwin.
one of the Baldwin brothers.
If only we had a database of information we could access at the tips of our fingers.
Yeah, I
Who
know,
would have
it'd be
thought?
Wonderful.
Sean Connery, Alec Baldwin, Sam Neill, Larry Ferguson,
Yes,
Scott Glenn,
okay.
Tim Curry, James Earl Jones.
Thank you for correcting me because that would have been terrible if I had just gone with that.
Quite all right.
But maybe we could just segue then into Crimson Tide because that's another one you like too, right? That's a great
Gee,
movie.
and guess what? It's another submarine movie.
It is.
Most of the stuff that I like has got to do with submarines. Crimson Tide is about a submarine that's out on patrol, and they get a message that Russia is going to attack, and they need to go to launch levels to launch their nuclear missiles.
Yep.
And Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman is the captain of the boat, and Denzel Washington is the executive officer, and he doesn't want to do that. So he fights him, and it's a really, really good movie.
It's a great story too because they lose communication at the very last moment, they have like half a message, right? Like half a message comes through, but it's not clear what their instructions are. Gene Hackman has one opinion, and Denzel has another opinion, and the performances in that movie are just magnificent as well.
Yes.
What I'm getting is you like very relaxing, not tense movies at all.
Right. You like Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Out of all of my favorites, if it's on TV, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's 9 o'clock at night or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm glued to it, and I won't change the channel or mute it. I'll watch it end to end.
Absolutely.
And another one, The Green Mile.
Love that movie. That's my second favorite movie of all time.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'll tell you what, just about anything with Tom Hanks in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, what was his name?
Forrest Gump.
Absolutely. Forrest Gump. One of my favorite of all times. I'll watch it whenever it's on. So,
can you believe that there's actually been chit chat from these youngsters nowadays saying that Forrest Gump isn't a good movie because Forrest Gump doesn't do anything? Like, that's the point of the movie. Is Forrest Gump is just regular Joe. Anyway,
but he gets shot in the buttocks.
He does get shot in the buttocks.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh.
he played ping pong.
Yeah.
Have you seen Crimson Tide, Luke?
I have not.
Okay, so that's another one. Definitely a good one to watch. Yeah. If only they were available, so we could just watch them on our TVs, right? With just like bringing them up on a remote control and renting them.
Yeah.
Going to the store to get video cassettes is a drag.
I can remember doing that many, many, many years.
I remember working in a Blockbuster Video, being surrounded by them.
Yes. Yes.
Any other ones on your movie list before we move on to another category that's been important, I think, in our life?
I know there are, but I just can't think of them right now.
Yeah, that's the worst part about doing like lists of favorites, because you always beat yourself up after the fact. How did I forget this?
Forget that one.
Yeah. See, that's why I write everything down and don't trust my brain. I trust the thing that's in my hand that's my external brain. It's
The
the
only
phone.
problem with that is I write it down and I forget where I put the note.
The other great thing is we don't stick to one straight line. We make lots of U-turns. So if it pops into your head, we're happy to go back and talk about it. That's my favorite thing to do, is just change the subject while we're on a good linear part of a conversation. I just turn it right back around.
Well, you're really good at it.
And I think he does it on purpose just to confuse me.
Yep.
And just keep me on my toes.
That's part of a kid's
Job?
job in life is to confuse their parents.
Yeah. Well, these two do a really good job of it. If you want to do that kind of stuff, get your ColbyCast, all right? Well, another thing, movies were a massively important thing I remember growing up and in Caleb and Luke's lives, and that's a lot to do with you and Nana. Music is another category that is just right there, if not some days even bigger, even higher, more important.
Yeah.
I remember you taking me to guitar lessons, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they were Tuesdays. Doesn't really matter, but you would drive me about 10 minutes from our house was where I would take my guitar lessons.
Yep.
And I know you would play a lot of music, but one of the artists that sticks out to me, knowing that you would listen to or you would play a lot when I was in the car with you, was Elton John. And I remember just listening to the cassette, right, in the old gold Honda, and driving to my guitar lesson, and you're blasting Elton John, and then I'd get out and then walk a couple, go down and get my guitar lesson, finish up with that, and then walk down a couple stores, and you and Mom would be eating KFC, right, waiting for me to get out of my guitar lesson. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I feel like my early musical formations are almost black and white, because it's very influenced by Mom, by Nana, and then also influenced by you, Papa. And they're very distinct, aren't they?
Oh boy, and hell.
What are some of your favorite artists, some of your favorite musicians throughout your life?
Well, like you said, Elton John, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Back when I was with the phone company, I was a cable splicer for many years, which meant I sat in a manhole all by myself, splicing wires that couldn't talk back to you. So you had to entertain yourself. So I had an AM, FM radio. And I would run the antenna up above ground so I could hear. and I would play rock and roll from 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. And gee, many Christmas, we're talking Pink Floyd. I don't probably know, you probably never heard of Purple Haze.
Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix. Yeah. A lot of that stuff. I mean, I could go on for Arlo Guthrie, one of my favorite. Now he's more on the line of folk music. And his dad, Woody Guthrie, who played some of the best music in the world, if you can handle folk music.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people can't. But then, oh gosh, I got to go to my list because I got a lot of this stuff written down.
Well, the other day we were talking about this, and you mentioned you had 2 playlists of Roger's music, right? Quote unquote, and it totaled up like over 8 hours or something. The 2 of them.
Well, the first one is like 7 hours. The second one is 8 hours.
So you like music?
Yeah, I've got the Moody Blues, Santana, Led Zeppelin, ZZ Top, Queen, Beatles, Sheryl Crow. I mean, Traffic. One of my favorites. And everybody at work thought I was a drug addict. Because my favorite song, and I would play this as loud as my little AM/FM radio would go, is called Traffic, Light Up or Leave Me Alone. Okay?
I mean, there are pictures of you with long hair down to your shoulders, right? I mean, you had your rock and roll days.
Oh, yeah, I had...
See, now you know where I got it from.
Never even stood a chance.
No.
Yeah. I started growing my hair and my beard in 1969 and was called a hippie most of my life. And all I was doing was rebelling against the phone company. Because they said I could not have a mustache past the corners of my mouth or sideburns lower than the earpieces of my glasses.
Wow.
And that was the first thing I did.
You know, there's this film franchise that you would really like because it's all about rebels.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
We can. Yeah, it doesn't ring a bell.
I've heard of it once or twice in my life.
It's the one where they make the hand gestures like this.
That is not the.
No, it's not.
No, that is not.
No, that's Star Trek.
No.
No, that's one of the TV shows. That's Doctor. I know his name.
You don't have to say it. It's okay.
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Not Doctor Who.
Spock?
Doctor
Yes.
Spock.
Is that his name?
Yes.
I'm not familiar with this. Like Papa, I don't know what Star Trek is. I can't spell it. So I would love to hear, Caleb, Luke, what are some of your thoughts on Papa's playlist here with just, and this is the tip of the iceberg, right? The thing is 8 hours of music on one playlist, and he just read a few artists. ZZ Top, Moody Blues.
Well, I remember growing up, we first started on iTunes. And you buy albums on iTunes. And the albums we would always buy were always Ozzy Osbourne, the Beatles.
Yep.
I mean, we had every Beatles album purchased and downloaded.
Don't you have every Beatles album on record now?
On vinyl, yeah. Well,
So it's going backwards now. So he starts with digital, and now he's buying the vinyls.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like, I don't remember ever listening to that music with you in the car, Papa, but I only remember listening to it with my dad. I'm sure we did at some point.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I never really knew where we got it from, and it sort of goes all the way back.
Yeah.
Well, usually when you guys were in the car with Nana and I, we didn't play music because she wanted to talk to you guys all the time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we would talk and talk and talk, which was great with me because I learned things that I had never heard before about both of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
one of the 2 songs that ring in my head, one of them I can remember, but both of them were your ringtone on your phone at one given point in my life, at least. One of them was by The Who.
Yep.
Or what was the other one? And I don't know if you'll be able to remember. I sure as heck can't remember.
I've got 3 ringtones. I've got, for people that I don't know,
Yep.
It's Who Are You?
Yes, that's
by
the
Who.
one. The Who. Uh-huh.
Another one is one special for Nana when she calls me.
Uh-huh.
And the third one...
Isn't that one Brown Eyed Girl?
I can't remember what the name of it is.
The third one?
The one, Nana's, or the third one?
Oh, Nana's is Brown Eyed Girl, I
Brown Eyed
think.
Girl.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, we could just call Papa and see what it is.
Oh, the third one is, for special people that call me, is United States Navy theme.
Oh,
okay.
nice.
Yeah, Anchors Away.
So I must have been around a lot when Nana called you, because I remember the brown-eyed girl scratched the itch in my brain that I couldn't
Yes.
remember.
Yeah.
So Who Are You and that one. So
No, I remember the Who Are You all the time.
yeah.
Because it would always start with the little, like, the chiming, like the little whistle at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And isn't that the theme from like NCIS or something like that?
No.
Isn't it a TV show that
Who
you
Are
really
You is
like?
the theme from CSI.
That's what I'm trying to
Las
say. Yeah,
Vegas.
CSI. I knew it was a TV show.
More recently, that one singing competition where they dress up in like mascot suits and stuff has adopted that song.
Oh, The Masked Singer.
There you go.
Yeah, The Masked Singer does that. Yeah, because it's all about trying to guess who somebody is, right? Go ahead.
We're going to revert back because somebody said something about vinyl records.
Yes.
When I was right out of high school, my favorite car that I ever owned was a 1955 Chevy. Okay? And being from San Fernando, it had very loud pipes and it was lowered in the front.
Yeah.
And most people don't even know they had these things. But we had record players that fit inside the cars
Yes, I remember you telling me. Yep.
that would play for the small 45 RPM
Yeah.
records. So I had a record player in my car. Well, when I went in the Navy, I left my car with my dad. And unfortunately, the 3 months I was gone in the Navy, he never changed the oil. He never did anything to it.
Yeah.
So the car was ruined by the time I got home.
Oh, I know.
And I just junked it.
Yeah.
Little did I know, if I'd known anything in 1965, that was going to be a classic.
Yeah.
10 years later, it would have been saved.
Yeah.
So getting back to the 45s, when I was in the Navy, I had a portable record player. And I had a box of 45 RPM that went out to the base with me. So I would play records all night long if nobody else was in the room.
Yeah.
And the two guys that I bunked with, all three of us worked in the control tower. And they would go out drinking all night. And I'd stay in my room and play records.
That's awesome.
So
You said the 1955. You're directly affecting my dad's taste in music and therefore directly affecting ours. I think I get the car affinity from you because you're talking 1955 Chevy. My dream car, if I were able to buy it right now, would be a 1970 Chevelle.
ooh, I'd love those.
Love it. And
Love it.
1955 is not far behind that. So
Yeah.
my dad has an affinity for Honda Civics. I do not. So must get that from you. It's a genetic thing, I guess.
So that's the pre-Colby car for Papa, but the post-Colby is Honda Civics. That's all I remember growing up is having Honda Civics.
My sister, after her divorce from her first husband, started dating her second husband. And she could have dumped him and let me keep his car. If you've never seen a 1944 Deluxe Coupe, you need to look it up.
I'm going to look it up for you, Dad. Don't worry.
And those things were worth, back in the middle 60s, those things were worth just about $1,000 in any condition that you could find them in. Well,
This is the one?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a beaut.
He found this one in a barn up in Santa Barbara,
Oh,
off in the country. And the guy told him, he says, you can have it if you'll take it away.
oh my.
Wow.
So he built that thing, stripped it down to bare nothings, and built it from the ground up Now, this is a 1940 Ford. 40s had the first V8s ever made,
Yeah.
but it was a flathead. Instead of the heads being up here like this, they were tilted down on the sides. He took that old flathead V8 out and built a 327 cubic inch Corvette engine with fuel injection.
Oh my God. It's the fastest 1940 car out there.
And put a 4-speed standard trans behind it
Wow.
with, I don't know if you know what a Positrack rear end is.
Sounds cool.
Positrack rear end. Most cars that have rear wheel drive, only the right rear wheel drives the car.
Oh, interesting.
The left wheel doesn't do anything but follow in the tracks.
Yeah.
Well, both left and right wheel drives drove the car.
Ooh,
Wow.
that had
So
some
it's
kick.
a Positrack rear end. San Fernando Raceway, he went through that raceway one time at 130 miles an hour.
Oh my
God.
goodness gracious.
And every once in a while I'd say, I got to go to the store. I'm 16 years old. He would toss me the keys and let me drive it all by myself.
And you took the longest route to get to
It
the
would
quote
take
unquote
me
store.
45 minutes to go 3 blocks. Oh my gosh, I'm up at San Fernando Road and Foothill.
So you were smart. You would never say what store you had to
That's
go to.
right.
You just had to go to
That's
the store.
Yeah, so that was, if I had all the money I wanted, I would have a 1940 Ford, just almost like his, but they've got 6-speed automatics that work better than any automatic transmission in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of shifting. So I'd have to go with the 6-speed automatic. But everything else would be the same.
Luke, did you think that we would get caught in the middle of a Gearhead podcast here? Like, this is like Hot Racing Cast or something.
I know nothing about cars, and my car has pretty much no parts in it anyways, so I know even less.
We all have decided that your car is a spaceship. It's not a car.
Yeah.
It is a spaceship.
It sounds like a spaceship when you're backing up into the driveway.
Between you and I, we could put our 3 pennies together and bid on a 1940 Deluxe Coupe that's selling for $29,000 right now.
That's
Look,
it.
put in there 1944 Deluxe Coupe, competition orange, and see what... You've never seen a car that looks like that when it's bright ass orange.
Well, he's saying $29,000. I'm thinking we could just write a check, right? I mean,
That's the one.
Yeah.
ooh,
Well,
that's,
it's more this one down here on the bottom.
Okay, that's
that
pretty.
that looks like a carrot.
Yeah.
We have to use our words to paint a visual picture.
Yeah.
It's
Let me
it's
see
a
it
bright
one more
orange carrot car. This is
Oh, yeah, that's now a little bit different because he had on the back, besides having that Positrack rear end, he had flared the fenders out and put 13-inch cheater slicks on the back.
Ooh.
So the back set higher than the front.
Yeah.
But when he took off, he could lift the front wheels off the ground on that thing.
oh my.
Wow.
It had such bite
Yeah.
on those back tires.
That's amazing.
And he said, "You want to go to the San Fernando race with me?" Are you kidding me?
Twist my arm.
Yeah. Oh, that's enough. But, yeah.
Well, I have a question about that because you're mentioning the San Fernando Raceway, but I've also been told stories that you've told me, and I'm a little confused. So there's the San Fernando Raceway, but then there's also the Hansen Dam submarine races that you would try to take Mom to, right? Well, tell us more about that. Get at submarine races, you can't see
Yeah,
them.
no.
You just
we all tried. This was in high school and shortly thereafter, taking our girlfriends up to Hansen Dam,
which actually had water at the time.
yeah, you could actually go water skiing in this place.
Oh, wow.
So we'd take our girlfriends up and park up there 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and then say, "What are we going to do?" And I'd say, "We're up here for the submarine races." And some of them would say, "I don't see any submarines." Now, your Nana, your mom, never fell for it.
No.
Too sharp.
She knew what was going on. So,
Hey, she liked you enough to go along with it, though.
yeah, well, I'm not going to say anything to that. We're going to let that slide.
Good question. And that actually...
She's probably going to listen to this.
Yeah.
So,
Smart man.
sometimes.
But you're referencing a lot of things. It's a perfect segue, by the way. You're a natural at this. You've mentioned a lot of things about growing up here in Southern California. Another thing, we've talked about movies, we've talked about music, we've talked about cars. But one other very big thing in all of our lives is hockey. And we've talked about it on the podcast before. We talked about it. I mean, we were just at a hockey tournament this past weekend, right? Luke's always off coming in to record the podcast with a hockey voice where he's sounded like a 1970s DJ. It's all low and growly.
Coming to you live.
So how does a person... Now, sports in general, though. I remember growing up, it depended. Whatever was on, right? I remember watching Sugar Ray Leonard fight. I remember watching the 1981 Dodgers win the 88 Dodgers with Kirk Gibson, and the whole fist pump. I remember watching that. I remember watching Wimbledon with you. We'd be sitting there on a Sunday and Wimbledon's on and we're watching it.
Yeah.
We're watching boxing matches. We're watching the Lakers. How could you not enjoy the Lakers in Showtime in the days back in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Those guys were something else.
If it was sports, it was on.
It was on the TV. But hockey found a special place, didn't it? And how does a person born and raised in Southern California, how were the Los Angeles Kings and hockey even on your radar? Because I remember going to a game as a kid, not even understanding why they had pulled a goalie, and standing up in the middle of the forum, screaming my head off, "Where's the goalie? Not understanding why they would do that, and that they actually got to put another player out there on the ice to try to tie the game.
Yep.
But very young, you would take me to Kings games. The Kings, even before Wayne Gretzky, were important and were on your radar.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I've been a Kings fan since the year they started.
1967.
And I used to tell kids that when I taught for AT&T, I would tell kids in my class that 1967 was the most important year of my life. July 7th, 1967, Noreen and I got married.
That's right.
And we're still married to this day.
Yep.
October 8th, 1967, I was discharged from active duty in the Navy.
Wow.
October 23rd, 1967, I was hired by the phone company.
Wow.
1967 was the inaugural season of the LA Kings,
Yep.
and that's when I started following them.
Yep.
So I've been a Kings fan since they came to town.
Yeah.
Yep. OG.
As the kids say, since day one.
Since day one. Actually, before that, because as they announced the president, vice president, I'm sitting there going, and unfortunately, we didn't have Google or anything to look these guys up.
Yeah.
So I had to start looking through newspapers and sports magazines to find out who. Rogie Vachon?
Who's that?
Okay.
Yeah, Marcel Dion? Two players that I will never forget because they were probably the best two players. Sorry, Wayne. Probably two of the best players that ever played for the Kings.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just pure and simple.
Yeah, Vachon and Dion, absolutely Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So was hockey on your radar pre the Kings? Or
No.
Wow. So it was because it was LA you started to get your roots in with that too.
Well, first off, where I was raised in Pacoima, the only ice we had was in the bottom of my dad's drink. We didn't even know we had skating rinks, but the only ice rink in town was in Culver City.
Yeah, Culver City.
Culver City.
But in those days, you're looking at a 45-minute to an hour drive?
At least 45 minutes, if not longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where the Kings practiced for a long time until they built the rink 15 minutes from the house out in North Hills, which you ended up working at, and getting to know a lot of those Kings players back in those Wayne Gretzky days.
And I did the ice cuts for them before they practiced every day.
Yep.
And then I did the ice cuts for whatever visiting team was practicing after them.
Just did it a little worse for them.
Yeah. And Scotty Bowman
Oh.
recognized the name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me hold one of his Stanley Cup rings while he was out on the ice because he forgot to leave it in his locker.
Wow.
He walked up to me and he said, "Roger, I need you to hold this for me." Put my hand out and he put this Stanley Cup ring in my hand. It fit on my thumb.
Yeah.
And after he got off the ice, he says, "Where's my ring?" And I said, "What ring?" He says, "You know how heavy this stick is?" This is back in the days when they still had wooden sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but working there was second best job I ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After?
Being an instructor for the phone company
Yeah,
for 9 years.
That was pretty good too.
Yeah, it was.
Well, you were born to be a teacher, so you got your chance to teach the thing you knew best, which was splicing those cables and how to climb those poles and get those dang manholes and blast the music in the manhole.
I was still climbing a pole when I was 70 years old.
Yeah, you were.
I remember you telling us, like, we'd be at, like, Coco's or somewhere just having a lunch or dinner, the four of us, you, Nana, Luke, and I, and you telling us these stories, and my imagination is running wild and thinking, like, you're climbing the poles? Those things are, like, 300 feet tall. But at the time, I was, like, 8, 9 years old, and now I see them every time I drove by. I was actually talking to Brittany about it when we were driving back from Vegas, and I was like, oh, yeah, we can thank Papa for those. Right there.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? I was telling her all about it.
They weren't 300 feet tall.
They were not.
Tallest one I ever climbed was 75 feet.
That's still impressive.
Get there on the top of that and you're feeling like you're up in the clouds.
I get on a 6-foot ladder, I'm just like, oh, it's too high.
Well, what's funny is that of all the things that I was mentioning that we would always watch, I don't remember hockey being on my radar until that August night in 1988 when I was in the backyard and you came walking out and you said, "Hey, Colby." And I said, yeah, Dad. He goes, and you said, the Kings just traded for Wayne Gretzky. And I remember thinking, what does that mean? What does that mean? But that is a momentous night, not only for Kings fans, because it really is. It's also for the NHL, but most especially for us, because that really did sort of set me on a course, didn't it?
Yep.
You know, by the end of that first season, with Wayne Gretzky playing for the Kings, I enjoyed that whole season. I was totally bought in by playoffs. Knew all the names, knew all the numbers, knew all the facts about every King player on that team.
He could tell you how many goals this guy had, how many assists this guy had.
Well, sort of like what you guys can do for me now, right?
I look it up. Luke can be like, oh, yep, he shoots left-handed, he shoots right-handed, and it's just some random player who's played 6 games, he's got it.
He'll tell you his draft year, what country he's from, what year he was born. That's why we call him the Hockey Rain Man. But that night it really did change. It sort of led to a passion that grew out in me of hockey, and has then now passed on to Caleb and Luke, and that's because of you, Papa. That is because of you. That's because of the words you said that night. Because there's a lot of people in Los Angeles that didn't bat an eyelash at that.
Yeah.
Right? It's a big city, but we did. We bat a lot of eyelashes, and that led
for
to
a long time.
That led to a lot of years of hockey that is still going on right now, and that is a massive legacy. Something that your fingerprints are on, like literally in our DNA.
Yeah.
So
I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
Take a walk with me for a second. In my crib, the little thingy that spins.
Yeah.
What was it called?
Yeah. It's a mobile.
Mobile, thank you. People say, oh, they blame Papa. I thank you because you didn't give me a choice. I was going to be a goalie because it was on my mobile, So
yeah,
we still have it.
We do. You literally made a mobile.
still have that?
We still have it.
I'll go find it after we're done.
Yeah, it's got these little Kings minifigures, and the one that was right in the middle was a goaltender.
There's a Kings goalie helmet and a Kings goalie on it.
And then fast forward a couple years, and you made another one for Luke, and by this time you were working at the California State University Northridge and doing all the inspections for telecommunications, which involved a lot of construction, right? So his mobile was all construction vehicles. You had a little blinky red light, and you would just turn the little crank, and it would play music. And we still have that one too. So we have both of those. So you
maybe if you ever have any grandkids.
Okay, podcast over. Hit the stop button. So it actually leads me to my next question. It's one of my last questions.
This scares me.
So knowing, I want to hear the answers for all of you guys. I have an answer, and I want to hear what you guys. So this rich sports history, especially in hockey, we're gonna save you for last, Papa. No, let's go first. I want to see if any of us match. What's your favorite sports memory of all the years of sports watching you've watched, what is your favorite? What's one of the highlights?
This is professional sports?
It could be anything. It could be anything sports related.
Besides all the games that we went to when you played youth,
Yeah.
when you guys played youth, one of my favorite memories is going to the LA Kings Detroit Red Wings playoff game at the Forum with you and Kevin and myself, sitting in the top row,
Yeah.
and not sitting down the entire game.
Yeah.
And the Kings won it in overtime.
Wow.
Yep, and they came back from that. They had like a 3-goal deficit
What
going
year
into
was
the
that?
third. It was the early 2000s. They lost the next round, I think, to Colorado, but they beat Detroit, which was one of the best teams in the league. So it would have been maybe 2002-ish, maybe
Yeah.
earlier than that. Some early 2000s, we'll say.
Yeah.
We'll have to look it up later, but yeah, that
But
was pretty thrilling.
That was one of my favorites. My other favorite, and this is the favorite of all time, is sitting right out in your living room
Yep.
the day the Kings won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
2012.
Yeah, 2012. The best of my life.
right.
Best game of my life. Pure and simple.
Well, I was wondering if we were going to match any, and we did right off the bat, because that is my highlight too. And it's hard to pick a top, right? Because there's so many that could be in contention. And you mentioned just thinking about Caleb and Luke's different games, you could do a top 50 list just from the games that these two guys have played.
yeah.
But what I loved most about that moment was not just the moment that they won the cup, but the lead up to it, the 2 months.
Yeah.
You guys were coming over and watching games. We were having hockey parties for every playoff game. We would go to your house and watch games. And then
I remember as the playoff run got deeper and deeper and deeper, we just kept hanging more jerseys on like the shelf that we have above the windows
Yeah.
to try and make it look more and more like it was like an actual hockey game we were watching. I don't know how we ended up with this Go Kings Go banner, but I remember that being like 10 feet long. We're hanging that in our front porch and all this
Yep.
different stuff. It was such an amazing time.
Did Linda give that to you?
Linda
yeah,
gave
she
that
did.
to us. Yeah,
When
we
she
still
was
have
working
that.
at that place over in Glendale.
Children's Hospital, LA.
Yeah, and they put that thing up, and
We still have that. It's
still
hanging in
have
the hockey area in the garage where they have all their equipment and stuff. It's still hanging. But I just remember you were there. Nana was there. The four of us, Mom, you guys, and us, and even Mom's parents, Mama and Papi, were there, and we were all just giddy. And for me, that was the case. The stuff that was happening on the ice and with the Kings was great, but being there in that room with those people and knowing what it meant to you, knowing that you were there from the beginning, 1967, and there was
45 years later.
a lot of lean years, and being a fan of something, always having your hopes up and never quite getting that taste.
Yeah.
And then just having that opportunity to celebrate it with all of us was remarkable. And for me, what puts that over 2014, because we got spoiled. We got another Stanley Cup.
That's right.
In 2 years. Some teams don't.
Almost 3-3.
Yeah, almost 3-3.
Yeah.
But that night happened to be on one of the on hockey tryouts. So we were there doing hockey tryouts at the rink until the double overtime. We literally walked in the house, turned the TV on. I walked in the kitchen, and the kids were screaming and yelling because Alec Martinez scored to win the second cup.
Yeah.
So it didn't have that. It was fun to be at the rink and be in that atmosphere, but that 2012 cup, to be all 6 of us, am I counting right? All 10 of us? How many of us?
Yeah, and Mama and Papi were there
all
too.
of us, all 8 of us. Well, it's 8. So all eight of us there, and just doing the countdown and jumping into each other's arms, and we're sitting there crying like babies, and it was incredible. So yeah, that's my highlight. What about you guys?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I was 11 years old at the time, and no, I was 10. I was 10 years old at the time.
Yep.
And I remember being just old enough to remember the years of heartbreak before before they lost to Vancouver, and then I remember just thinking, like, I didn't realize how special it was until I looked around and I saw you, Dad, and Papa hugging, and I just thought, like, wow, I'm pretty lucky because I haven't had to suffer nearly as long as you guys.
Exactly.
And suffer did we.
Yeah, I remember the way the sofas were set up. We had chairs lined up, so we're all sitting in a row. I remember Papa going and smacking me in the chest saying, "It's going to happen, it's going to happen." And then it happened. It was amazing.
And it couldn't have happened better, right? Because some cups are won or some championships are won in a moment when it's like sudden death overtime or you're on a last minute play in like basketball or something like that. But the Kings, they blew the Devils out for that cup. They blew them out in game
3-1 or something.
It was 6-1.
Yeah.
6-1.
I believe it was 6-1.
3 games to 1.
Yeah, they were up 3 games to 1, and actually the
game
Devils it was 3-2 at that point games, but they won that game 6 in LA, and the score wasn't close, and you never relax.
Yeah, I was going to say
Ever.
it was your ideal score.
Even with a 5-goal lead with a minute left, you're not relaxed.
No, I'm not.
But it still led to just the ability to enjoy it as it was happening. And I think it's unique for sports fans to have wanting something that much and living vicariously through your favorite sports team, right?
Yeah.
And then having them win that thing, just surrounded by everybody and counting down, really just enjoying the last few minutes. Even the players on the benches were going crazy. Daryl Sutter had to tell them to settle down, right? But that was man, that and fun fact, I know that there's at least 2 videos of that celebration. I know Sandra was recording, and I know Nana was recording. Yeah. So anytime you want to relive that memory, it's right there for the reliving. So
it's hard to top that one, but I remember you and I going, just the 2 of us, to a Vancouver Canucks game where you had taken Luke, you had taken Tyler, you had taken Austin, but because I was so busy with school and practice, you just kept asking, when's your next free day? When's your next free day? When's your next free day? And it finally happened. Luke, the game he went to, you guys had lost. Tyler's game, they lost. Austin's game, they lost. I was like, the streak's got to break. The streak's got to break. And then they won 3-1, and then we went down to the Team LA store, and we got me a jacket with a little zip-up with the Kings logo on it, and I still have it in my closet.
Was that when we had our season tickets?
Yep.
Or half season?
Half season. Yep, that was one of them. And you just kept asking, when's your next free day? And I remember being able to watch Vancouver, because I was very closeted Roberto Luongo fan. Because if I said that to very hardened Kings fans, I would have been beaten up on sight. Yeah. So being able to see him and then the Kings beating him, I was very happy. I remember the seats being amazing, and it was just such a great experience.
Front row.
Yeah.
Well, we did get front row when they were very young, and I don't even know if you guys remember that, but you treated all of us, and we went out there.
Was it the one behind the benches?
It was right behind the Kings benches. And a pro tip, if you want to go to a hockey game, don't sit in the front row behind the benches, because you can't see anything except for the game within the game, which is going on in the bench, which is fascinating.
You're looking up at the overhead.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, those are some fantastic memories, and it's a fantastic conversation. Before we wrap up, any final thoughts from anybody? Anything you guys want to hop on before we close out the episode?
I would like to say thank you for having me on, because when you asked me yesterday, I was about ready to say no and run out of the room because I don't do things like this very well. Yeah. But I really enjoyed myself, and that's only because I'm here with 3 of the people I love more than anything else in the world. Yeah. So thank you both, all 3, very much.
Well, we feel the same way about you, Papa, and you sell yourself short because you're a natural. You're a natural at this. Like Grammy said so many years ago, you may not have started talking for the first 2 years of your life, but once you started, you never shut up.
Why should I talk when I can go point at it and go, and they bring it to
you? Boys, any closing thoughts?
No.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and close this this episode out. Again, Papa, thank you. You get all the thanks. We appreciate your thanks to us, but you get all the thanks for everything that you do and everything that you mean to us and everything that you mean to so many people. And for you, those of you who are listening, we hope you enjoyed our conversation with Roger Mead, Papa, aka Dad, and hoping you enjoyed getting to know him a little bit. And we hope you enjoyed this episode of the ColbyCast. Thanks for listening.
You can find the ColbyCast on Twitter and Instagram at the ColbyCast. If you're wordy, like me, you can send an email to thecolbycast@gmail.com. Please subscribe to the show and leave a review on your favorite podcast app or wherever you listen to podcasts. This podcast is not endorsed by anyone or anything for that matter. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the ColbyCast unless otherwise indicated.
That'll do, Donkey. That'll do.